What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. We're coming at you live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Crypto in the morning. How is everyone doing today? What a fabulous day to be alive. Let's check the chat because it's bucking. I said that was with a B, like bucking like a deer. BC in the Matrix, Crypto Chronic, Jordan Bradford, Iron Hex. Great to see Pacific, my boy PLSD Thailand. Yo, is that my boy? All good in the hood side, brother. Are you my boy Pulse Socks that I met in Vegas? You're the GOAT if you are. Great to see everyone. Bugsy. Good to see everyone. Guys, we have an interesting show today. Me and Sam are going to do some talking today. Now, of course, there's going to be breaking news, and Bullish is going to be all over the breaking news, I'm hoping. Because lately it's been just breaking news fest with green dildo. I mean, we're not going to say anything like that, but it's been bad news in crypto. Although price is staying rather stagnant, is there one player left waiting to make? Like, when does the liquidity come back? Maybe they wait a little while, maybe get some of that liquidity ripened up until they just gave it the death spiral. But who knows, guys? Everything's crazy right now in crypto. Ethereum leading the charge as far as being awesome, but prices don't care. And we're going to talk about some of these things. Security, buying crypto in a bear market, working through for a newer investor and like someone who's trying to get into crypto a little bit, what to be looking out for. Because Sam, sometimes we go technical and kind of forget to talk about everything else, like safety and security. We talk about it sometimes, but we brush it off. So today's going to be a back and forth about like other people in crypto, them onboarding, Sam. We get lost in the sauce. It's about onboarding users. At some point, we need new users. It's pathetic what we're dealing with right now as far as onboarding. We're going to open it up, guys. I'm excited. Crypto in the morning, every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. DeFi proofs the GOAT.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. I'm already tuned in. Got me some hex and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. GymRatCrypto sent me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning, 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 crypto in the morning.
That call yesterday where there was this spaces and
Yesterday, good call.
Richard Hart was talking about liquidity providing, and I'm listening to this given that I like liquidity providing and I talk about it a lot in my channel, and there's people on there who don't know what liquidity providing is or how it is actually structured. Found that fascinating because these are people who are supposedly like, knowledgeable people.
Sam, I learned these things though, Sam. We're a little bit weird, Sam. We're going to take both sides of the bias today because I need to bring it back. Because me and you are just a little bit too similar in the kind of information we like to digest, being that we were looking at the same things when we met. So it's like, nobody cares, right? That's the big thing here. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to learn details that aren't slammed down their throat. Nobody gives a rat's ass about the liquidity of Poly rather than Hedron. Like, no one cares. And I say and mention this to people, and it hurts their feelings for some reason because they say, I'm a smart guy and you're wrong. Then I ask them how much money is in the USDC Hex liquidity pool, and they never know. Never. I did it to a guy earlier, Day One Hexkin. He said 36 million or 46 million or something. He was off by like, 400%. That's the product that he only owns. Nobody gives a shit, Sam. And I'm going to just accept that as a truth and continue forth and learning. So hopefully I can just get
Like, how do you not want to understand how liquidity works, given that like that's like the biggest piece in crypto? That like,
why don't you want to go to the bar with your friends and get hammered? Why, Sam? Tell me why.
I don't see any value there.
But you're different, bro, because you don't give a shit. You're in your prime, and you're as a economic tool, I guess. Like you're in your prime, like, and that's what you're about right now, and that's probably what you'll always be about. And to be honest, I've been way too intense my whole life too. Everyone's told me to calm down, shut up, please. You're saying too many words, you're doing too many things, and you think too much. And I always thought it was a bad thing, right? Like, but you just realize that the way that we absorb information, you isolate yourself, so do I, so that we can continue to put this kind of effort into learning. But most people they got wives that they got issues with, or kids that be having.
Think about what happens with crypto, right? So we've unlocked this peer-to-peer way of sending money. Right? Like I can send money to this fellow that I work with in Africa like that, right? And a small dollar amount, and he receives it right away for a tiny little transaction fee, versus if I send him a wire fee for the $20 that I owe him for the help that he's doing for my stuff online, it's going to cost me $25 for a transaction fee. Then depending on how many banks it has to hop to, each one of them might take a fee, so that $20 that I send, he might get a tiny little fraction of the $20 that I send over there. So we have that piece, which is amazing. And then on top of that, think about the access to a market. People have never had direct access to a market. You've always had to wait. One example to understand this is in the United States, there's something called an accredited investor. An accredited investor just is an exclusion for poor people, right? If you're poor, you can't invest into certain things. Pretty simple. Crypto takes this away with things like Uniswap. So when you have decentralized access to a marketplace, nobody can take that away from you. And the call yesterday, where Richard Hart's talking about liquidity and providing liquidity.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
These people don't even have any effing clue what they're talking about. When you think about this,
remember saying what I was saying to you when we started? Remember, like, these guys are rich that he was talking to. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit.
But it's a giant fundamental piece.
I don't get it.
It's such a big piece of what's.
And that's why we're going to be successful in this industry, probably. Whether Bullish was telling everyone, I don't give a shit about my social media following, and he was 100% fucking correct. Like I try to, but I don't focus on it, right? Like some things, Sam, I could focus on DEX screener liquidity without even doing a trade all day long. I don't know why. To me, it's super important that I understand those nuanced details. It's more important than any trade to me. It's more important. I need to know now what's going on right now, if I can. 300 days ago, I was getting hacked, robbed, and fucking got all my shit stolen. And now I know just about everything that I was looking for. I have much to learn, of course, but like everything I was looking for at the time, I've learned all of that in 300 days, 200 days, whatever it was. And it's possible to learn it that quick. So I'm not giving people slack for the 7 years of not knowing what liquidity is anymore.
But I still want to touch on how important liquidity is. You know why New York is so successful? New York was so successful, right? Like actual New York. Or London, why London has been so successful is because they controlled the liquidity, right? For financial things. What do we know about being able to control the market?
We'll talk about that, Sam. How does that work in that industry, right? Like, so
well, if you control
my first example would be like Hex controls liquidity from maybe 1 or 2 accounts. Like, is that similar on a very small scale to maybe what you're talking about with New York?
Well, think about a very, very basic example. a farmer's market, right? You've probably heard of a farmer's market. You get like a big white table or 3 or 4 of them set up, and you sell your shit at this farmer's market, whether that's produce from your garden or whatever you're doing, right? You're selling fucking knickknacks. Well, what does the person who controls that market do? They ask for a fee, right? You want a table at the market? Cool. Here's a fee. Here's a fee. And you have 200 vendors there that all pay a fee. And then they try to make back their fee and get profit from the people who come in there. Well, if you control a market, the liquidity, right? New York, London, you can think of this, or you can think of the operator of a farmer's market. They control the liquidity of that. They earn a fee. And to not grasp how important that is in crypto, that there's no person controlling that, is extremely, extremely fundamental to how disruptive crypto is, because that middleman has gone away. We control that now. There's nobody telling me I can't access that market.
Yeah, we can. We hope we
24
do.
hours a day.
We hope
It's
we
extremely
do.
important.
We
And
have
most
control
people
right
do.
now, but we won't have control if no one learns this shit. Like, how much can Vitalik and the Ethereum Foundation do when these guys start coming in? There's only a certain amount of supply. They can't hide the liquidity forever. This is basically hiding it at this point, trying to get it to be plump as possible if bigger funds come in. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no clue, but I have USDC ready on the sidelines because, Sam, frankly, there's a lot going on right now. There's insolvencies that we don't know about, I'm sure. There's the insolvency. Let's just call everything insolvent at this point. There is nothing that's really solvent right now as far as centralized exchange is concerned. They're shutting down and hiding their liquidity at best. Like at best, they're hiding it because it hasn't been messed with yet. So can we pop into that video about the FTX stuff? There was just like a 2-minute news video from 1 hour ago. I wanted to play it. I watch these videos to get context on the overall thinking of the masses, and even though no one watches
this video is titled "New FTX CEO John Ray. Never in my career have I seen a complete failure in corporate controls." So this is gonna be interesting.
Thanks for
new in just the last couple of minutes. Want to tell you about this. FTX's Trading's a new CEO, John Ray, saying in a court filing, quote, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here." He said FTX did not keep appropriate books and records or security controls with respect to its digital assets. He also slammed the company for concentrating control in the hands of a small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals. Ray saying that Sam Bankman-Fried is in the Bahamas and continues to make erratic and misleading public statements. So
wait a second, this is the guy who did the Enron stuff, says he's never seen anything like this before.
And he's come in now to try to clean up this bankruptcy. You saw Sam Bankman-Fried, by the way, in some of his DMs yesterday, say that he thinks that his biggest mistake was in allowing the company to file for Chapter 11, and that if he had been given the opportunity to just hold on to these assets for another month, everybody would be made whole, and that he's still out there trying to raise $8 billion because he believes he can somehow rescue said firm. Of course, the firm saying that Sam Bankman-Fried is separated from the firm, so whatever he's saying, well, A, unclear whether it makes any sense to begin with, and that's me putting it politely, but B, sort of what is supposed to happen here. So
I just want to say this one more time. This is the guy, John Ray, who did the Enron stuff. Never in my career have I ever seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here.
No CFO, no board of directors.
Yep.
And an audit.
Dude, it happens twice.
Made Madoff's guy look like a Price Waterhouse.
But I will say, and this goes to the point where we were saying, were there a lot of people who knew about this? And I think one of the things he's saying, which I think is right, I think this was like a little company almost to begin with. Yeah. And there were probably literally a dozen people who at least understood what was going on. I don't think this is actually hundreds of people who were in on this scam. I think this was a couple of folks all living in a penthouse in the Bahamas that were somehow managing this, what seemed to be empire that was not much of an empire after all.
To give people context, because that's hilarious. Enron, if you're not familiar, was a company that had a glorious record running up until they realized that all of their accounting books, including their accountant, the accounting firm, there used to be a big 5, now there's big 4 accounting firms because they went bankrupt because of this, were cooking the books, literally just making shit up on their accounting books. So the guy that was working on that goes into FTX and he's like, wow, I've never seen anything as bad as this before. That's not good. You were talking about insolvency. We have a lot more to see. We have a lot more to see as this comes out, bro.
Yeah, this is just a bunch of plebs. And I do want you to pull up that video if you can. So we have CZ chiming in here with a big, oh my God, what do we have, a Godwick? Oh, a nice Godwick on Hex, guys. Don't be alarmed. Just dropping to lows from just about a week ago. I see that was a big devastating time right there, those lows right there. So understand that if it goes much lower than this, that's a crazy time. I'm not setting any limit orders or anything because I'm just too uncertain about who has the money at this point. And I'm just going to wait and buy a little bit at a time when I see fit.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's big. Bullish, go ahead. You had something?
Ethereum was also dumping this morning like 10, 12%. Sorry.
I'm going to pull up the liquidity pool on this to actually see what it looks like because I'm curious because then it kind of gives me an idea, like, will it bounce back very quickly? Is it outside of the range? Okay, so we're on the
do that. Please do that. Can you do that? And we will just play this video. Listen to this video of CZ talking about, because this was from 2 hours ago.
Hold on, no. Let's do it now because it's about to go up. So it'll be interesting to see it in real time.
How you know it's about to go up?
Yeah,
I already saw green wick.
Well, I know.
Okay. So this is why it effectively you would believe that the price is probably going to go up. Okay. So that we just saw the chart, right? So this is literally what I like to check it out. You see these marks and then you're like, okay, what does the liquidity look like? You pull up, this is info.uniswap.org. And you can see this is the distribution of where people have placed their liquidity in Hex, right? So it's currently right here. And you're like, okay, there's all this liquidity over here. This is probably Hex waiting to be sold.
How much though? How much Hex do we got? Because this guy right here, I mean, my man Pacific right here says, not sure if anyone follows Hex or not, but his post about DO1 just ended some large stakes and is selling by the dip time, I guess. Hex Whalebot is down. Oh, Hex Whalebot is down. Wow.
So what I'm seeing here is this pool here has a total of about 7.3 million in it.
That's not a lot of Hex.
No, correct. But it's only one pool. But listen to this: 1.2 million of USDC and 6.1 million Hex. So this is 6.1 million Hex waiting to be sold in this pool here. But what happens? The price comes down to this bottom edge. As soon as it gets into this area here, there's no liquidity. So if you have any buyers at all, because you have no liquidity, price goes up, right? Because if you go from 6.whatever million or $7.3 million liquidity in this chart, and then you drop it down to 87% less than that, that means a $7,000 buy, you have 4% slippage or 8% slippage because it pushes the price up very quickly because there's no liquidity there. And this is real-time data, guys. We're just pulling this up as we go through.
Yeah, so basically they could be prepping for some price action on the downside, so kind of just protecting it there. Kind of seems like would be the goal. Like under 3 cents, everything's kind of stacked up, and I think that means that they would also believe that there's downside to be had probably. Like they're stacking it pretty heavy on one side. Clearly, they're not super excited about that 4 to 5 cent price range, Sam, because it just doesn't seem like they're trying to make fees there or think that's going to be a part of the plan right now. What do we have here, Sam?
I just want to take a look. So this is Hex and ETH in the 0.3% pair. So USDC tends to be the largest grouping between pairs with Hex and USDC or Hedron USDC or Maxi USDC, whatever pair you look at, right? But then I like to check ETH because the distribution tends to be a little bit different. And you get to see that it's a little thicker on the downside here, but the pool is substantially less in this pair. So like the Hex ETH pair, I'm gonna pull it up real quick. It has $2 million in liquidity in it, and 430,000 of that is ETH, and 1.6 million of that is Hex waiting to be sold, right? So I always like to take a look at these when I see things like that, just to understand what's going on, how the liquidity looks. Because if you look at these types of things, right, given our conversation earlier that most people don't understand liquidity, even though like understanding liquidity is like such a breakthrough thing in crypto, it's monumental the impact this is going to continue to have, and most people are oblivious to this. They just look at tokens and they don't look at
the guys on the cutting edge are just the only ones that are not. Like Richard's clearly like really good at this concept. Like he knows this more than most, and he's or at least willing to talk about it more than most. And this is why this is the most important thing to learn if you're serious about learning and understanding this stuff and getting an early advantage in some of these future opportunities that come up, because you got to understand or you'll just get blown by. It's too hard otherwise. It's too many factors. You get blown by sometimes and you be paying attention a lot. So rarely though, like it, PLSD kind of mugged me on some shit once, but did that ever go up? Did I ever lose on that trade? Like, did I ever get anyway? It's important that we understand that the insolvencies and everything could bleed into, oh, dude, no, I'm straight. I sold at 420 like forever ago. Hedron did 15x. I couldn't have lost on that. So
there's not a lot of liquidity here though. The TLV is 325, and it's all like weird looking in terms of.
It almost seems like they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, there's probably several people that do.
Or is it just like new illiquid?
It's very, very, very illiquid. Very illiquid.
Very though, like very. It's kind of illiquid. Yeah, it's very. It's super illiquid.
There's $25,000 liquidity here.
Damn, that's so illiquid, bro. They sucked all that shit out. Where did it go?
Yeah, and this is like not a normal looking chart. So here's one of the things. Do you see this chart right? It just is like a giant block, right? If we look at the chart for this is the largest pair with the most activity. This is PLSD USDC. You get to see this chart, and you're like, okay, cool. It's like lopsided up and down, and it doesn't mean anything to you unless you like look at these charts on like a fairly regular basis.
It kind of means like it looks like people just throwing shit around and kind of throwing shit at the wall almost.
So let's take a look here at Hex, right? So Hex has much deeper liquidity than now. This distribution, you see how this distribution still looks a little funky. There's like weird lines over here to the side, which we can talk about if you want to.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that that's just one person doing something, earning fees, not really knowing what's going on, right?
Where this is how more of a much more normal distribution as you get more people into that market is going to look.
Sorry.
What?
Can you envision this chart in your head by seeing just the numbers on Deck Screener? Like, or does it always have to be looked at? I'm asking for you.
I like the changes. It's dynamic, so it's cool to look at because it's always like always changing because you have a bunch of different players in the market all acting in their own self-interest. The other day, Hedron and ETH liquidity for the 0.3% pair had less than $100,000 of liquidity in there. That means that it was earning 15.
Wait, excuse me. Wait,
Yeah.
You say ETH or USDC pair?
ETH.
Okay, I get that, but yeah, so it was 100,000 in there. So you saw that some was taken out, or it was a little slim.
So it was much higher, right? So then it went down. I don't know why it won't load. Here it is. Oh wait, no.
I'm telling you, they play this community. Understand the guys that build in this community, like Alex. Or I should just say Alex, because I'm pretty certain. Like, remember how I say Richard understands liquidity really well? I think Alex understands liquidity providing really well. That's my take.
So the other day, right? This number here, the TLV of the pair, Hedron and ETH in the 0.3%. This pool here, the TLV is your total value locked for anybody who's new. That just means how much of the tokens like worth in USD terms, right? $150,000. So now when you look at this, it was less than 100 grand the other day. And there was this number here in terms of fees earned was around $1,500 per day. So think about this for a second. Somebody could provide liquidity on this and say, I don't have my calculator out, but I'll pull it out real quick. Somebody provides, say, 20 grand of liquidity on $100,000, and there's $1,500 of liquidity. Then effectively, what are they doing? Well, what are they going to represent in the totality of the pool? Well, 20,000 into 120, because that's the size of the pool now, right? So 17% of the pool size. And if you have a amount of fees that are being earned per day of $1,500 times 0.17, $255 per day. Now think about this. You're like, okay, I could put in 20 grand and make $255 a day. Well, think about this. Do the math on this. Divide $255 by 20 grand. You're earning 1.25% a day. A day, right? And this is dynamic. So when you're paying attention to these things and people are like, oh, I get 38% of Hex. Cool, you go fucking get 38%. I'll get 30% a month, right? Because you can make all sorts of money in these pools. And this is a fundamental breakthrough in crypto that like people pay attention to the tokens, they pay attention to tokenomics, they pay attention to the founders, they pay attention to this thing and the other thing, and they don't realize that liquidity, having access to markets. Did you know black people couldn't vote? Women couldn't vote? That's not having access to those markets. Now imagine that not having access in a financial market, and now the entire planet has access to the financial markets that you have access to, that I have access to. And most of the planet is not paying attention to liquidity at all. It's a game changer, and people are not paying attention to it. I don't know why. Like, it's ridiculous.
Sam, you know how it goes, though. It's just the majority of people don't really get there with anything in their lives as far as the detail, the nuance, the really pushing to a level where it's like uncomfortable, I would say ish. I don't really know what that means, but let's play this video to switch it up just in my brain real quick. But Sam, incredibly true. And I think I helped Sam get to the bottom of this by spreading all that information about all these people. I was like, these guys are talking the real deal shit right here. And I knew it. And after enough time, I figured it out. Like when I told Sam about Hex, I didn't know anything about liquidity. I mean, maybe a little, but like not really. But after that, he kind of motivated, you know how that goes.
I second that, because that's why I started paying attention to liquidity, because Sam was like, yup, something's not making sense. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it.
And like, this is crazy.
Stare at the shit too, man.
The other day, by the way, in 2023, I will not be talking about any of my holdings or anything like that. I've made that decision. So in 2023, for personal reasons, I'm not going to be talking about any of my holdings publicly or whatever.
Am I wrecked? Am I going to do something?
No, but I'll tell you and bullish about it afterwards. But the other day, I earned 4% in LP. 4% in a single day. People are like, oh, the ICOSA yield is super high. You can earn ICOSA and you can earn Hedron, right? You can earn Hex, right? I'm earning 37% on my Hex. Cool. I got 4% in a day, bro. And you can get 1% a day relatively easily. And you're like, okay, well, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and I don't have $20,000. Well, cool. You can still get 0.25% a day, no problem at all. Like, super easy. If you start to dive into this, 8 months ago, I had no idea what I was talking about when it came to liquidity providing. None. 11 months ago, I got into crypto. Well, I kind of like decided, I switched so that I was going to focus on crypto. I knew what crypto was kind of slightly a little bit, and had like crypto payments that I accepted and paid people like tiny bit. But that was my understanding of it, not really paying attention. And I got into crypto. Now I'm understanding liquidity providing. So if I can do this in 8 months, 9 months, you guys can do this. Even if you get 6% a month, that's still fucking great. Sorry, you want to pull up the video? I got super excited about LP because not enough people.
Well, it's true. It's just it's critical, but I just want you to know it's going to be a while before it's an open conversation. Just don't get too excited, because I've been trying my best too, and the fight is hard and it's long. It's not one of those fights that's going to happen overnight. It's not one of those TRT miracle like media crazes, right? Like it doesn't really have that push because nobody understands that how the casino makes all the money. They kind of know it, but they ain't never thought about thinking about it for themselves. So that's weird. But yeah, let's play this video. CZ's been all over the place. I'm trying to figure out if this dude's a big rug artist, and so listening to him as much as I can is probably helpful.
Sorry, you talked about AML and KYC. This has to do with trying to prevent money laundering and the like. As you know, there have been reports about investigations about money laundering through Binance related to Iran. Nira Rabini took to the stage where you are and made that comment. And just in the past day, I'm curious the state of that investigation and if you can speak to it.
Number one, that report written by Reuters is wrong. It was fed to Reuters by a website called currency.com. Currency.com used to be a Russian-owned website. I think FTX bought a part of the equity there. We do believe that currency.com gave Reuters that access to a platform that gave them some wrong data. We use all the industry common platforms like chain analysis, elliptic, TRM for transaction monitoring. It's the same tools used by law enforcement. And we are very confident that our practices comply with the industry requirements. And the Reuters article is misleading. And Rubini, I would just say he tried to become famous by attacking everybody. That's all he does, and I don't think what he says carries much weight.
CZ, Sam Bankman-Fried has said that it was not a good strategic move on his part to get in this battle with you. He says he regrets it because obviously it helped reveal the issues with FTX that led to the collapse of all of this. Do you regret that feud?
We were never in a battle with him. He may think he's in a battle with us. We didn't even notice. We did hear some concerns about him bad mouthing us behind our backs in DC, in other political lobbying circles. We just said, look, we don't want to be entangled. We just want to exit our equity portion. We did that a year and a half ago. Right. And as part of that transaction, we got some FTT tokens. And recently, with the news of them becoming insolvent, carried by CoinDesk first, we just said, well, we want to sell those tokens. That's all we did. We were never against them. We don't focus on other smaller exchanges. Focusing our energy there doesn't give us the best return. If we take customers away from them, we may grow by 1 or 0.1%. Whereas if we can help grow the industry, we can grow by 5x, 10x, 100x. So we are much more focused on how to grow the industry more healthily together with other exchanges. So we never view them as a competition or as a fight. He may have that in his head, but we were never focused on. We were never focused on that.
Why don't you take us back, if you could, to
real quick? Okay. Listening to this conversation and given like the context we know about Sam Bankman and how like childish and like he just was no idea what he's doing, like complete like bozo in terms of like what
he seems like someone coddled like by like literally like the people just formed him into whatever he is today.
And you listen to CZ and it's like a professional, and then you listen to him and he can't go down any road of understanding of what he's doing. There's no like systems or processes set up in terms of like how it should be to protect consumers' privacy, to protect consumers like funds. You're not supposed to be taking consumers' funds and utilizing them for private equity investments and all that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. And CZ points it out perfectly. We don't pay attention to small little like warts on our butt called like FTX. We're the giant. We own 70% of the market share for this. We're trying to grow the industry. If we take a customer from FTX, that doesn't do diddly squat for us. If we grow the industry, right? What does he know about adoption? Adoption is what's going to grow it. It's not going to be getting 6 extra customers from FTX. So the store, just that in and of itself, could be the media, 100%. But if Sam Bankman was actually thinking about that as a competitor and not thinking about it in a much larger picture, like actually expanding adoption, right? That says a lot about the mindset of that individual, right? Because
or at least he's smart enough to not be a dumbass on TV. Like, come on, like you got to be smart enough to at least be a con artist. Like, at least pretend like you're smart. Like, he's just going the stupid route now and pretending like he's not smart. And it's so dumb. It's like, dude, we know you know how to leverage trade really well. We know you shove amphetamines down your throat all day long. We know you fluctuate in weight like 150 pounds a year, up or down. Like, a fat, no muscle. So like you can kind of tell all over him. He's just a flimsy human being that has control over way too much and got trust somehow from people and propped up all this stuff. And it's sad, but I mean, V-shaped bottom is what we can hope for, right?
So what do you personally think? Do you think that we're going to see a bottoming out in the next, how do you see this bottoming out happening? And like, obviously this is just you and I having a conversation here, but where do you see the bottoming out?
I think that if they're just going to dump on, like, if someone dumps Ethereum on exchange, like real serious, like it gets crazy, I think that'll just be enough. Or like Bitcoin or something. It could be either of those. So either one of those will probably tank the other at this point.
Do you think we keep dragging ourselves? Like it
depends how crazy they are, man. It depends if they want the liquidity to ripe up for like 3 weeks before they dump the rest of their S. Like,
do you think like you used to do surfing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how like you can be kind of like dragged around the shore or the surf or like the rocks or whatever, and you can just get all like eaten up by the rocks and everything like that. Do you feel like we're gonna just kind of like sit there dragged against the rocks, getting all cut up in terms of where we are, and not actually bottom out for 6 months or 10 months?
No, the news is too explosive. The news will catch anything that does well at this point, because I think like Elon / FTX was enough. Because remember, they did real marketing in the real world. So that means they get the repercussions of that, which is the media response to like crypto in general, opening up that discussion. I think it's going to be more of a V-shaped bottom. And I think there will be a catalyst of some sort too. I think there's always a story on the other end of it, right? Like, just like everyone will say, oh, remember that crash from that year, SBF, all that stuff. They'll say, yeah, I remember that stuff. And then I remember, oh, you remember when they built that thing and then everything was easier to do. Yeah, I remember that. So I think we're dealing with here a little shakeout, but we don't have much shakeout left. Like, there's really not much more that can happen other than insolvencies, just like dumping and sneaking onto the market. I think the active market has like said what they're going to be doing at this point. They've been wrecked for the most part, so they're just going to like sit there. But speculators are coming back, man. These dips are getting me excited, so I think that we can turn around Q1. I don't see where Q1 2023 we're not in some sort of bull run shape.
By the end of Q1 2023, we will have probably had the bottoming out.
I think that'll be like once we break past that point, we're like 15%, 20%, 30%, kind of break those ranges again. Then we'll see what kind of happens on the way there. Like, but that's when it'll start. And once it does start, it starts. Like, you'll forget what it looks like to not have price action, but it'll be 1 week up, 1 week down real heavy, 50%, 120% up. So again, it's just as volatile on the way up as it is on the way down. So there's just many people get shaken out on the way up as well, with the 20%, 40%, 300%. That'll shake them out, a lot of people, when in reality, you should be waiting for 25x, 35x to start shaking out any of your profits. So I think that there's going to be reversal in the Fed stuff, like whatever propped up bullshit that they say is going to be reversed into other fake propped up bullshit on the downside. And like, that'll be enough right now, because I think people are done. I think people are out. I think it's getting cold over here. And, I switched over to coffee from energy drinks just because, I didn't feel like spending money on that anymore. And so, it's getting to that time. But I think relief is here. And I think Richard Hart's really excited about the market. And I don't think a lot of stuff gets him out of bed. in the morning. Like he's one of those guys hard to motivate. Like me, kind of like when, oh, you got to do your emails. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I could care less. There's a millionaire emailing me. I'm like, I hate my emails. So, and he's a little bit like that too about some stuff. And now that he's talking and he's out there, really good opportune time for him to keep stepping up like he has been in the last week, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I like that he's excited is my point.
Yeah. And that excitement is also like, because you're like, okay, this person has more experience and time in the market and seeing this stuff. And now to see them starting to get excited about the bottom is like, okay, that's a bullish sign, right? Because the bottom is close.
It's bullish in that he doesn't have to say a word because I've watched him so much. Like he really does not think the market can stay down on Bitcoin and Ethereum for more than a year in some change. And right now we're in some change territory. And if his theories are correct, which they generally are about the market, within a few months, I'm sure we will see levels back to 20K, 25K, like, and that'll be like the start of the next bull run kind of.
Well, I think peak to trough, the max was around 70 weeks, I believe. So if we look at the peak last November to say it was exactly a year as of the 17th today, that would be 52 weeks. So if you figure like, because this is my how I'm thinking about it potentially. So when I was looking at this and I saw peak to trough of the max being, I think it was just over 70 weeks. Could have been 84, but I think it was 70 something. So I'm like, okay, we have a macro environment that could be challenging for large companies right now. I think for the small companies, it's advantageous. We have, a lot of turmoil geopolitically that's happening. We have a lot of things that are happening with currencies, like the old way of doing things. And this uncertainty around a lot of this stuff, I think also drives adoption to crypto. So I'm like, okay, if it lasts for maybe 80 weeks, right, then that's going to put us maybe at the end of March or something like that. Maybe if it would last a little bit longer, I think by the end of Q2 next year, probably worst case scenario, but more than likely, I personally think it will probably start before the end of Q2 next year. But that's like, if I had to put a number on it and the probability, and somebody can clip it if I'm wrong, I'm happy to share this next year at this time. But by June of next year, I would say that there's probably a decent 80% chance that we've already gone through the lowest point in the market that we'll see in this time ever again, and that things are going to be starting to head back up. Could be wrong, like could be wrong, but we have that like Ukraine firing missiles into Poland, right, and then causing 2 deaths over there, right? And where is Ukraine getting these missiles to fire into Poland, which is a friend? Oh wait. We, the United States, are giving them guns and munitions and money to do these kinds of things. So I think that we could be over the next period of time, could be pushing towards like war at a bigger scale than like just nobody gives a shit about Russia and Ukraine. Like, I don't know anybody who actually cares about that.
It's so isolated. That is like the most isolated economy I've ever seen or noticed, just from what I see, I guess. Like it seems like they don't want information, or like they don't want trade and like cross pollination as much as maybe they have a lot of space too, so maybe they don't need it. I don't know shit about Russia, but Putin, lay off my peeps. All right. So and I don't know anything about that, but I do know that our government funds war.
Well, yeah.
that I do know, because some of my friends are contractors for the government, and oh boy. That's interesting world where you're selling missiles all day for.
That is a very accurate statement, bro. Our government does fund war because there's a giant complex that feeds off of war in terms of financially, right? They have
to. That's the rule book now for those guys. They have to sell. They put those guys in a position to sell, and selling to them is selling missiles. And then on the other end, there's people that are in a position to ruin missiles and drop missiles so that they can have more missiles, because those guys cut them checks. They get more missiles. Missiles are expensive, guys. And but I ain't no financial doctor or nothing, but missiles are expensive.
We
So-
can get into this other video. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's not a video. Sam, do you mind reading for a minute?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so Sam, I'm going to use the bathroom. Literally, take me 2 seconds. Sam Bankman-Fried tries to explain himself. Article: The fallen crypto CEO on what went wrong, why he did what he did, and what lies he told along the way. And this dude's on pure blasphemy, amphetamine, like blood transfusion kind of mode. Like, so let's have Sam read this. And Sam, no crazy F bombs because
Man, I was just thinking this is gonna be.
I know he was. I was like, the first sentence is gonna make this dude drop the hardest F bomb
because this is gonna be.
It's ignorant.
This is gonna be a puff piece. This is all freaking.
But I want to. But it could be good. So why don't
Correct.
Sam go ahead and read the beginning, and I'm gonna use the bathroom, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Here, go to the top here, and then we'll get into that piece in a second. So, who Bullish? Who's this article by? What company? What brand is this article?
This is Vox Media.
Vox, VOXX?
Yeah, VOX. Yeah,
VOX.
you know, I'm not gonna say they're super legit, but they're legit.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get into this thing. That was Is this at the top? That was surprising. Okay. Last night, Sam Bankman DM'd me on Twitter. That was surprising. I've spoken to Bankman via Zoom earlier in the summer when I was working on a profile of him. So I reached out to him via DM on November 13th, 4 days ago, after news broke that his cryptocurrency exchange had collapsed, with billions in customer deposits apparently gone. I didn't expect him to respond. Typically, people under investigation by both the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice don't return requests for comment. We don't have any faith in our Department of Justice, if you understand what happened over the last 36 months. Bankman, though, apparently wanted to talk about how FTX and his hedge fund, Alameda Research, had gambled with customer money without, he claims, realizing that's what they were doing. How dense do you have to be to like say that sentence and actually believe it? About who gets lauded as a hero and who's the fallen guy. About regulators, fuck regulators. That was actually in the article. They're using the F-bomb, so I'm just repeating what's actually in the article. About what he regrets, chapter 11, that's referencing bankruptcy, the decision to declare bankruptcy, and about what he would have done differently with FTX and Alameda. More carefully, accounting plus off-board Alameda from FTX once FTX could live on its own. It was past midnight Bahamas time where Bankman is reportedly still located, and we went back and forth on Twitter for more than an hour. He said, still working to try to raise funding needed to pay back all his depositors. As we messaged, I was trying to make sense of what behind the PR and the charitable donations and lobbying Bankman actually believes about what's right and what's wrong, and especially the ethics of what he did in the industry he was working in. Looming over our whole conversation was the fact that people who trusted him have lost their savings, and that he's done incalculable damage to everything he proclaimed only a few weeks ago to care about. The grief and pain he caused is immense. And I came from the conversation appalled, good, by much of what he said. But if these mistakes haunted him, he largely didn't show it. Disclosure, the August Bankman Philanthropic Family Foundation Building a Strong Future awarded the Vox Future Perfect a grant for 2023 reporting. Okay, right here, when you read, I just want to make a point here. When I read research papers, so I used to read a lot of research papers. And when you read the research papers and it's talking about a drug or a compound, and then you go down in the bottom and they disclose that they have who's paid for this study. And you see that the study who was funded by the company that the drug is about, you know it's BS. And that's effectively what he's putting in here with this small disclosure that most people are just going to skip over and not actually read. On regulators, before his empire collapsed, Bankman was actively engaged in lobbying Washington for a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency. While many crypto CEOs, like Bankman's nemesis CEO CZ, are openly skeptical of government regulation, Bankman has largely avoided criticizing regulators, but in our conversation, he dismissed their role. He characterized past conciliatory statements, like when he said last month that some amount of crypto regulation would be definitely good, as for taking care of centralized exchanges so that you can't rip off people's deposits with you and then not go to jail for the crimes that you've committed, as little more than PR. In doing so, he all but confirmed the views of critics who have argued that his overtures to Washington were much more about image than substance. I mean, this guy is pretty flaky. It could just be about PR because he's so incredibly clueless. This is the actual conversation from Twitter, it looks like. You said a lot of stuff about how you wanted to make regulations just good ones. Well, is that pretty much just PR too? So this is now SBF right now. There's no one really out there making sure good things happen and bad things don't. Yes, clearly, you stole over $8 billion of customers' funds. Usually, there's only one toggle: do more or do less. Yeah, just PR. Fuck regulators. They make everything worse. They don't protect customers at all. Interesting to see a talking piece of the Democrat Party on what he actually seems to be coming across as honest, right? Does seem like some want some kind of consumer protection would be good though. Like maybe regulators can't deliver it, but sure does look like consumers lose their shirts a bunch. Agreed on both. It would be good, but regulators can't do it. This is actually kind of interesting here. I'll be the reporter. You can be Sam Bankman, and you can read the Sam Bankman's parts here, GRC. And you couldn't do it, and CZ sure isn't doing it. So who?
They can't actually distinguish between good and bad. Just do more business versus do less business, and put up more moats versus put up fewer moats. No one will, but you want to know the truth? No one is doing the rest to finance either. Or, for the matter, other areas that are regulated, the FDA isn't helping. The giant crackdown on big tech has no point or goal and philosophy behind it. OFAC is slowly undermining U.S. interests globally and is the single biggest threat to the U.S. being a superpower. ESG has been perverted. It has been perverted beyond recognition. What is ESG again?
That's the environmental garbage that people purport. But this is interesting because what he's saying here has a lot of common sense type stuff. Yes, regulators are imbeciles in terms of how policies are implemented. Not that the individual is an imbecile, but the policy is idiotic, right? And the implementation of the policy is idiotic, right? So by going through and saying this kind of stuff, that ESG is a joke, yes, we all agree with that, right? That OFAC is undermining the US's superpower from a crypto standpoint, 100% agree with this kind of stuff. So this is actually kind of interesting. I'm sort of putting together a picture where you don't believe anyone is doing anything for good reasons. You don't believe the good guys are good, so why not make it big and then be the one who gets to decide what's good is? And if you have to do sketchy stuff along the way, everyone else is doing it too, and plenty of them are worse. And people still like them as long as they win. Is that fair? This is you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading. What we're left with at the end of the day is only the rich can invest, only they can make or lose money. That's some truth to it, but it's also true that I didn't want to do sketchy stuff. There's a huge negative effect from it, and I didn't mean to. Each individual decision seemed fine, and I didn't realize. Jesus Christ. This dude's a piece of shit. He's a dirtbag. He's flimsy. He's an asshole. He's completely narcissistically drug addicted. sex cult leader.
So there's this is a pretty long article, so let's keep just cranking on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you want to just go through the text from the back and forth, and we can do our own interpretation of it?
Yeah. I was just re-listening to that conversation we had this summer.
Hold on, go back down. We're gonna skip over the other guy's interpretation. We're just gonna read it ourselves.
You know what I want to do instead of finishing this off? Like, I mean, I know this dude's like the top perverted scumbag in history right now, but you know, Crypto Banter has a lot of guys that work for him, and he does this a lot better and he did it like an hour ago. And I want to see what he has to say in his little 7-minute clip of his whole rant. There's a 7-minute clip about all this stuff. And I have a feeling he goes through all of this because he's been in one of the and last time you watched his video, you really liked it, Sam. So that's why I chose him today. You were like, that was a great video. And I was like, yeah, I thought so too. But everyone talks shit about him because he gets wrecked on every centralized exchange that comes out. He lost like 10 million plus in Luna.
Oh man.
Yeah, he got perma wrecked. So it's 746 bullish. And there is that. And then Sam, just say stop if you want to stop. I'll do the same. We'll give this 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and it'll probably go through quite a bit, as you can see from the thumbnail top right. Exposed.
This is from a reporting point of view, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Hold on a second. Where is everyone? Guys, smash the like button. Let everyone know that we're here and we're live and we're doing amazing things here. All right, so let's look at the world of SBF and just quickly touch base with what's going on. There's a lot going on. We need to uncover a lot. So the first thing that's going on is I mean, you know, it's just an ordinary day in the Bahamas. SBF is in a grocery store, not surrounded by police, not surrounded by bodyguards, walking around without his shoes on, without anybody, just walking around in a grocery store. At the same time, he has continued his tweet storm. Like, this tweet storm is the gift that keeps on giving. So let's quickly just pick up where we left off yesterday. His goal was to clean up and focus on transparency, make customers whole. A few weeks ago, FTX was handling $10 billion a day of volume and billions of dollars in transfers. There was too much leverage, more than I realized. A run on the bank and market crashed, exhausted liquidity. So what can I try to do now? Raise liquidity, make customers whole, and restart. Maybe I'll fail. Now, he's delusional because the liquidator has walked into FTX. And the first thing that the liquidator said is, he said, there's a statement from John Ray, Chief Restructuring Officer and CEO of FTX Digital, regarding Mr. Bankman-Fried's public statements. As previously announced, Mr. Bankman-Fried resigned on November 11th from FTX and Alameda and their directly and indirectly owned subsidiaries. Mr. Bankman-Fried has no ongoing role at FTX Official, FTX US, or Alameda Research. So I don't know where this guy thinks he's going to be raising money or trying to fix things. But I don't know, maybe in Sam's head and in Sam's world, this is what happens. Anyway, yesterday we finished off at Truth and Beauty. He continued to give us once upon a time a month ago, FTX was a valuable enterprises, had $10 to $15 billion of daily volume, roughly $1 billion of annual revenue, and $40 billion of equity. And we were held as paragons of running an effective company. So I was on the cover of every magazine, and FTX was a darling of Silicon Valley. We got overconfident and careless, and problems were brewing larger than I realized. Leverage built up to about $5 billion, backed by $20 billion of assets, which were, well, they had value, FTT. So he's admitting, SBF is admitting that he was leveraged against his own token, which is what everyone has accused him of. And he now admits that the token was, the risk of FTT was collateralized, all that stuff, and it all came coming down. It says roughly 25 of customer assets were withdrawn each day, 4 billion. As it turned out, I was wrong. Leverage wasn't 5 billion, it was 13 billion, which made a run on the bank. Shrapnel. And he says, last night I talked to a friend of mine, and he carries on. He says, it sucks. I'm sorry things ended up the way they did. As I said, I'm going to do everything I can to try and make it right. A few thoughts. It's really hard to be a regulator, have an impossible job to regulate what the hell is it talking about regulation for? To regulate the entire industries that grow faster than them. And so this tweet storm carries on and on and on. And he says, anyway, none of that matters for now. What matters is that I'm doing the best I can do. which is nothing because the liquidator basically says, look, Sam, you're not actually allowed to be talking on behalf of FTX. You have nothing to do with FTX. At the same time, Sam has been speaking to a friend of his, Kelsey Piper, who is with Vox, and their DMs got leaked. Now, I verified that these are actual real DMs. And what's starting to come out here was that Sam really wasn't the person that we thought he was or that he came across. So let's look at some of the DMs. It says, does seem like some kind of consumer protection would be good though, like maybe regulators can't deliver it, but sure, does look like consumers lose their shirt event. Sam then says, agreed on both, it would be good, but regulators can't do it. And you could do it, and CZ sure isn't doing it, so who is? They actually can't distinguish the good from the bad. That's the first part that was in the DMs. But then it gets a whole lot juicier. So for one, he talks about Nishad having left because Nishad was one of the guys, one of the foursome, and he says Nishad left guilty. So he says people I've talked to said Nishad was much more into ethics, not being sketchy. He says, yeah, it hit him hard. I mean, it hit all of us hard, but it hit him hard. It seems you have more of a sense to yourself to fall back on, more of a sense that you are only wrong if you lose. And he was more like, wow, we stole money from people who trusted us. He says the world is never so black and white. So that's the second part of it. He says, you tweeted out some other stuff, like we never invest your deposit. That was bullshit, right? He says it was factually accurate, but like their deposits were totally not there. Or do you just mean technically it was Alameda? He says FTX, correct. So it wasn't FTX that was investing deposits. It was Alameda. So he's admitted this. I mean, I think that now Sam Bankman-Fried doesn't have a lawyer. Or if he does, his lawyer is really, really bad. Like really, really, really bad. Was the Alameda thing when Luna crashed the first time customer deposits got lent out? Or was it more like the accounting was such a lot of the stuff you were doing was implicitly backed by customer deposits? It says, messy accountant plus a margin exchange position built over time. Though in retrospect, Luna crash was when we did a lot. So he's now admitting to have done this long time before. If you could do it all over again, would you just take more careful accounting or never touch customer funds or never go into crypto? It says, be more careful, plus off-board Alameda from FTX once FTX could live on its own. So he doesn't mention not digging into customer funds again. This guy is absolutely, absolutely delusional. So he says, so you kind of don't believe in like doing unethical shit as anyone than a judgment we bestow upon the losers. He said a month ago, CZ was walking around a walking example of don't do unethical shit. Now he's a hero. It's because he's virtuous or because he had a bigger balance sheet and so he won. And so this discussion continued to go on. He says, do you know what's actually up with the money that mysteriously got moved after FTX after bankruptcy? That's the other thing people are speculating about. He goes, hack, either ex-employees malware or ex-employees computer, a few $100 million. And then lastly, he says, I fucked up big multiple times. You know that maybe that was my biggest single fuck up. Oh, so you know what was maybe my single biggest fuck up? Oh, the one thing everyone told me to do. Everything would be 70% fixed right now if I hadn't, and that is, what is it? Filing for Chapter 11. No, I don't know about this. I don't know if FTX would be better in SBF's hands or in the regular in the unknowledgeable liquidator's hands.
What?
But either way, that's where it is now. And now the liquidator has walked in. So both liquidators have walked in. Remember that FTX got liquidated in the US and is being liquidated in Bahamas. The international company has the jurisdiction to be liquidated in the Bahamas, and the American company has the jurisdiction to be liquidated in the United States. And so what happened is the Bahamas liquidators, which is information that we got yesterday, say that they don't even know where to start looking because the books of FTX are such a mess that they actually have no idea where to start looking. And so they're like almost like, you know, we've got a job to liquidate FTX, but we don't know where anything is. There's just terrible records. And that's not the only thing. The liquidator that was appointed by the United States, this guy, John Ray, who is the same guy that went into other big liquidations. I think he was I think it was part of Enron's liquidation and many others. So he walks in to FTX, and he says, read this, says, I've had over 40 years of legal and restructuring experience. I've been the chief restructuring officer and chief executive officer in several of the largest corporate failures in history. I have supervised situations involving allegations of criminal activity and malfeasance, like Enron. Malfeasance. I've supervised, I think it says, yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter, malfeasance. I have supervised situations involving novel financial structures like Enron and residential capital and cross-border asset recovery. Nearly every situation where I've been involved in has been characterized by defects of some sort of internal controls, regulatory compliance, human resources, and systems integrity. But get this, okay? Get this. Never in my career have I seen a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as has occurred here, from compromised systems and faulty regulatory oversight abroad to the concentration of control in the hands of a very small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals. He's saying, I've never seen in my entire career, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen such a breakdown of systems where you put so much money into a small circle of people which are not trustworthy. And he even goes to the point where he says, these compromised individuals, this situation is unprecedented. That's the first thing that he says. Okay, then it carries on and it says here, so there is a receivable of $4.1 billion to Alameda Research, consisted mainly of a loan which was given, and another loan of $3 billion, which was given to Sam Bankman-Fried himself. Further, on the books, the entire fair value of the SPX asset is marked at $659. Okay, even though he has been marking it at $5.5 billion. Okay, FTX says that Bankman-Fried didn't include customer liabilities in FTX's financial statements. FTX.com platform, however, such liabilities are, to my knowledge, .com silo debtors do not have any long-term or funded debt. The .com debtors may have significant liabilities to customers through the FTX platform. However, such liabilities are not reflected in the financial statements prepared by the companies. This guy is an absolute con artist. There's absolutely no other way that you can see it. There are also a couple of other things. So here, let's just understand this. So first of all, in the Bahamas, I understand that corporate funds of FTX groups were used to purchase homes and other personal items for employees and advisors. Remember, this is coming from a report from the liquidator who walked in on Friday. He says FTX did not keep appropriate records.
Stop it for a second. Jesus.
This is just not looking good at all. Like there's
all our money is in the Bahamas and homes and real estate. Not ours, but theirs.
You need to keep better records when you are running a business for yourself, right? Like so I keep great records so that if I get audited by the IRS, I can just be like, oh, here, I know exactly where that shit is. Here you go. Right. And just be done with it, over with. Or if I want to flip my business to somebody else, right, and I want to sell it, they want to see accurate records that they can understand. This is hilarious. I wait until he's been like, it's going to take him probably a couple of weeks to get through the data, but like wait until he gets through this information and releases like a more detailed report on this. We're going to see so much garbage coming out of here. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, it really is all just garbage. But let's just keep it going. This will probably be the last couple of days before. But the press, the White House is doing something in December on him. So they said, or like maybe later in the year. So we'll be watching that probably. He's going to go in. They're flying him in. You know, when you're a crook, you get flown around. So let's keep playing this for a minute.
Of security controls with respect to digital assets. Mr. Bankman-Fried and Mr. Wang, Gary Wang, controlled access to the digital assets of the main business in the FTX groups, with the exception of Ledger X, regulated by CFTC. Unacceptable. So they had Sam Bankman-Fried was the cold storage of Alameda. Okay, And okay, get this. Alameda Research. This is huge. Alameda Research. FTX coded into its auto liquidations protocol to exempt Alameda Research from being liquidated.
Wow, that's massive fraud.
Alameda Research.
That's basically, I'll set up a system where I let other people borrow money, and in the code, when you get liquidated, even though I could have exactly the same position, I won't get liquidated because I own the exchange. This is so blatant fraud here, utterly ridiculous. Well, like, this is what happens in the United States, in our government, where the government makes rules that says we can insider trade, but if you do that, it's illegal. This is exactly the same type of thing as the United States government. So if you're upset about this, you should start taking a more active role in government and holding people accountable, because this thing happens in your backyard, especially if you live in California and Nancy Pelosi's over there, right? Like 100%. This stuff happens in our government. This is disgusting. Sorry, go ahead.
Coded into its liquidation protocol to exempt Alameda Research from being liquidated. The secret exemption of Alameda from certain aspects of FTX.com's auto liquidation protocol and the absence of independent governments between Alameda, 90% owned by Bankman-Fried and 10% owned by Gary Wang, and the .com silo in which third parties had invested, which was the third-party fund. Are you understanding that what this guy did was he had no controls whatsoever? He was the cold wallet of your money, which he lent to himself and to Alameda Research. And Alameda Research was trading against you all this time, but they could never get liquidated while you were getting liquidated. Absolutely crazy. You know, I thank our lucky stars that we never supported FTX. We tried. We fought really hard to try and get a referral deal with FTX, and thank God we didn't. Thank God we didn't, because it landed up really, really, really protecting our community. So I mean, I can only thank God that we didn't. Really, really, really. Some more cracks that are emerging. For one, when people were depositing money into FTX, it literally says that they were depositing money into Alameda Research. Like, it literally says that. Literally, it's like when they sent you wire instructions that said Alameda Research, that should have given people alarm bells. This rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It's one of those rabbit holes that I've never seen anything like it. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. CZ was on CNBC.
Rabbit hole goes. We don't even know the full story yet. It is going to get deeper. We're going to see more improprieties. We're going to see more fraud. We're going to see more of this ridiculousness. Like, even if that is the case, and you're depositing money to FTX, and they're just literally saying, hey, we're just literally sending the money to the hedge fund, right? You should cover your tracks better. You should definitely cover your tracks better. Maybe he doesn't have a good lawyer. Maybe they're actually going to try to throw him under the bus. Doesn't seem likely, but maybe, right? All the people and money that he donated money to, like the Democrat Party, and helping them out, maybe they're just going to throw him under the bus. I don't know what's going to take place, but this is disgusting. This is ridiculous. Holy crap. Like, this is like our government just doing insider trading on steroids. Like, you know what I mean? At a natural show.
Wait, this already happened a lot too. This is what people don't get. This happens all the time in crypto. It's always centralized exchanges, or it's a skin tag token that people are taking leverage on. That's like the new play. But you can do that in a centralized exchange, which is cool. So yeah, Sam, it's been a good episode. Lots to cover. Frankly, it's hard for me to even pay attention to these dickheads anymore, but it is what it is. So I hope everyone here has an amazing day, certainly. I'm going to be in the Twitter spaces more in the morning because I'm trying to vibe with that again before the show. So that's where you can find me if you want to have a chat. And Dr. V-Ray, I got all your messages. Dr. V-Ray's crazy, and he sends me like 6-page paragraphs on Twitter, and I'm reading them all, but it takes me some time, V-Ray. Don't be upset with me. Okay, guys, have an amazing day. Sam, great to see you as always. Call me if anything's going on, anything crazy. I hope everyone has an absolutely amazing day.
Peace.
DeFi Proof. Follow us on Twitter, guys. We're all over it. Sam, get on Twitter and defend me. You need to defend my honor on Twitter because I'm getting harassed by a bunch of beta males. What?
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a steak. Got me some hydro, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. GymRatCrypto sent me to show you the way.